Are these the most underrated irons of 2025? Let's go find out. So today I'm testing out the Wilson Dynapwr and Dynapwr Max irons. And I think this is a really interesting combination of two different models from Wilson this year because they're both game improvement offerings, but the Max is called a game improvement plus offering, which is definitely a term that I've not really heard used before. Quite often we hear game improvement and super game improvement, and those two clubs are aimed at different handicap ranges. What we've got here is not really necessarily about handicap, it's more about optimizing your ball flight for what you need. Now the reason behind this is the Max is all about extra height, control and stopping power into the greens. We've still got a lot of shared technology across the two models, so you're still getting the benefit of forgiveness, added distance, but really the Max model is going to add a lot of height, which we know there's loads of golfers who struggle to get the ball high enough in the air, which means it's really hard to stop the ball quickly on the green. So I'm going to be really interested to see the differences in performance between the two models here, just how much similarities there are in terms of kind of distance, feel, but also how much difference there is in terms of that added height. So what I'm going to do is work through the iron set today and show you how these perform through the bag. I'm going to hit 9 iron, 7 iron and then up to 5 iron. I'm going to actually weirdly start in the middle with the 7 iron. Now visually you can see here sitting in the bag, both of these look pretty similar, and I really like that because I think you're not picking visually on looks, you're picking on what performs the best for you. There obviously are some slight tweaks in terms of sizing to allow these to perform differently, but actually on the whole there's a lot of shared technology between these two models. Both irons are designed to have a low centre of gravity and high MOI. Now what that means is a low centre of gravity means there's loads of weight down at the bottom end of the golf club. That's going to help you launch the golf ball high, keep that hang time, get maximum distance. High MOI stands for high moment of inertia, and this is more about where the weight is placed in the club head to drive up forgiveness. So these both have toe biased weighting in them. That's going to move that weight into the edge of the club, add the extra forgiveness, but also probably add a little bit of extra speed. We do also have slightly different loft offerings here. Now I think a lot of the times people just think lofts get stronger as you move through the set and as it becomes a more forgiving club. That's not actually always the case, and the big theme here is with the Max is that it actually has slightly weaker lofts. That's going to help you get that maximum height, and for a lot of golfers who don't hit the ball high enough, that will actually give you more distance naturally, because getting the ball in the air will increase hang time, get the ball in the air for longer and give you an overall better carry distance. So it's not always just about stronger lofts to get better distance. So let's hit the both of them and see how we get on. Okay, first I'm going to start with the Dynapwr model. We're about 145 from the pin, but it's uphill into the wind, so see how we get on with this. In both models here I've got the same shaft and the same setup. So this is a KBS Max ultralight shaft. Now over the ball I really like the clean shaping and the lines on this. I would say this model is slightly more matted than the Max model, which has a bit more shine to it. And although we do have a decent width of top line, it is really well chamfered and it sits nicely behind the ball. Also not too much offset, which I like. Oh, nice sound off the club face. I actually just managed to get that over the back, so that's got a pretty nice distance. 158 yards carry for 170 total. I would be pretty pleased with that out of a 7 iron, especially in these conditions. I think one thing people get concerned about when they move up to a bigger kind of game improvement model is what the sound and feel are going to be like, and a lot of the tech in this iron is focused on that. Now the construction of this iron involves the technology that Wilson call an energy transfer chassis. Now this is just kind of the framework they use to build their iron, and as you can tell a lot of it's about adding power and speed, but it also is designed specifically to improve that sound and feel. Actually I really liked the way that sounded there. It sounded much more like a more player's iron than it would a game improvement iron category, which I think is really important. Now we do know when we move into this kind of bigger construction of iron, we can lose a little bit of spin. That was 5,674, which I think is pretty decent with a 7 iron, because actually it's combined with a descent angle of 43. That means the ball's coming in really steep. It's going to land on the green and allow you to get that stopping power. Definitely need to aim a bit further left because that wind is more strong left to right than I thought. Overdid it after saying that. Lovely strike though. Yeah, that's gone miles. The pull kind of helped that, but it was quite nice. 172 yards out of a 7 iron. Pretty insane for a 187 total. Obviously I've pulled it a little bit, so the spin's dropped down. We're in the mid 4,000s there, which is a little bit lower, but actually not too bad. And what I like is the launch was still at 18 degrees, nice and high, and also the descent angle was still 43. So I think there's kind of that myth and story around game improvement irons that they're not always consistent. If you middle one or pull one, you're going to like get a massive flyer. Actually, my flight variables have stayed very similar there, which is really impressive from this club. I actually really like the turf interaction I'm getting here too. Sometimes, personally for me, I find it hard to get a thicker sole through the turf, but this feels really nice. Such a solid ball flight. Okay, I'd say that was my best shot yet in terms of kind of strike quality and setting it off where I wanted it to. That carried 161 yards. The launch was 19, which actually Skytrack's saying slightly on the high side, which I think is going to help a lot of golfers. Generally, I hit it quite high as it is, so these probably helping me out a little bit too much, but if you're someone that wants a little bit of extra launch, that's going to really work. Spin pretty much dead at 5,000, and again, descent angle really good, 42 degrees. I really like how consistent that's been. Also, the height's been really consistent for me here, so 24 yards, that works out at about 72 feet. Those last two shots were literally identical in terms of ball flight and data, which goes to show you don't have to have a small iron to be consistent. So that was 160 yards carry, 19 in terms of launch, 5,413 spin. I'd be pretty pleased with that given the collector we've got of 7-iron and the construction of this. That's combined with 44 descent angle. That's really strong. I guess the ideal number we're looking is between 40 and 45 for most golfers. That will vary a little bit depending on your club head speed too. Again, great height, 25 yards, which is about 75 feet. Let's go hit the Max model now, look at the differences. Okay, so as well as being 2 degrees weaker, a little bit wider sole, all designed to give you extra height and stopping power, there's also a little bit difference in terms of construction. So we've got an open heel construction here. That frees up the heel side of the club for better response and also gives you more ball speed on a heel strike. We know for a lot of players, as well as not necessarily launching the ball high enough, typically more often than not, people will struggle with that left to right shot and a heel strike. So having a little bit more ball speed just can give you more consistent distance. So whether you hit it out of the middle or the heel, there's not going to be as much difference in terms of distance, which is really crucial in terms of hitting iron shots into the green and knowing what club to pick. Because if you hit one out of the middle, it goes 10 yards longer than one out of the heel, it's going to be hard to pick the right club all the time. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with the height here. Slightly larger footprint behind the ball. I think it's more comforting than anything else, and probably the biggest difference is a little bit more offset. So offset is how far the hosel is in front of the club face, and what it's going to do is allow the club face to shut down quicker. So if you're someone who loses the ball to the right a lot, leaves the face open, it's going to help you release the club more. So in theory it should help me in this left to right wind. See if it does or not. Wow. You see how much higher that's gone? I actually didn't think it was going to make that much difference, 2 degrees, but it really has. So straight away that's flown 4 yards higher than the best shot with the Dynapwr model. That's an extra 12 feet of high, which is really going to help people who don't have enough flight or hang time in terms of getting more distance, but also getting more stopping power. And it's really common when I play with club golfers, they hit the ball quite low, it pitches and then runs out a long way, which can be beneficial in summer and if you have a run up to the green. But if there's bunkers and hazards at the front to carry, you need to get over them and then stop the ball, it's quite difficult. So this is where this kind of club comes into its element. The launch on that was 21 degrees, so significantly higher. The descent angle was 47, so really steep. Obviously for me, that's probably a little bit higher than that 45 I'd be looking for, but you've got to remember that most golfers who will be using this club will be coming from a lower base level, so this will be bringing them up into that kind of perfect optimized area. And actually the spin hasn't dropped much between the two models here. That's still in the low 5,000s, which I'd be really pleased with. That also still carried 161 yards, so we're bang on for distance, which goes to show you that story that I was telling. It's not always just about the loft. A lot of it's about getting the right flight that works with your speed and your game. I actually can't believe how high that's going. On my days when I'm not feeling my best, my bad shot or what I lose is definitely my height. Do you know when you just feel a bit stiff and you don't swing it as good? I think on those days it'd be just so easy to pull a club like this out because I can just feel how much it's helping me out, and I think that's the whole point here. Generally as golfers we're kind of really bad at using our ego and picking the clubs that we kind of want to use, but actually when there's an option like this that's just so much easier, why are we not using it? So interestingly, I didn't strike that as well as the previous shot. It was probably a little bit heavier. Only lost 2 yards in distance, so 159. I really like that. I really like the consistency of that. But what I actually love is how consistent the ball flight data is. 22 launch angle, again, low 5,000s for spin, but 47 descent angle and 29 yards in terms of fly, which is actually identical to the previous ball flight. Literally exactly the same. You can have consistency and a club that's forgiving and helps you in the same package. Yeah, this is really not normally a club I would game, but I'm just really enjoying hitting it. It's been really consistent in terms of distance and flight, which is obviously what someone in this category wants. And I really do think that ease of height, launch, hang time is going to help a lot of golfers out. What I'd like to do now is go and hit it in the 5-iron and see if the story stays there, because that's obviously kind of where the part in the bag where we can struggle with irons and getting enough height and launch. Just pausing for a second to give you a chance to hit that subscribe button. Over 80% of people watching my videos aren't actually subscribed, and having a bigger subscriber number really helps in terms of what kit I can get my hands on to review and where I can go to film videos. So really, it's all in your favour to get better videos on the channel, so please hit that subscribe button, and while you're there, you might as well drop this video a like and drop us a comment about what else you want to see on the channel. Okay, I'm going to start with the Dynapwr model again. Again, very similar in terms of looks here. Quite excited about this because I feel like 5-iron's just one of those clubs that, you know, sometimes you just don't feel like hitting it. It feels a bit tricky, so I'm interested to see how much easier it feels with these clubs. It's a long way to the green front rack here. Not sure if we'll make it or not. Felt nice. Felt kind of fast and soft at the same time. Oh, easily on the green. Interestingly, I actually didn't strike that my best. I would say it was slightly thin, a bit off kind of the lower grooves, but it's still got 176 yards of carry, which is more than what I'd expect out of my current like earned 5-iron on a flush shot. So generally I'm looking about the 174 mark for my 5-iron. But what I like is, even though I've thinned that, the launch angle is optimal. It's in the green, so 14 degrees. My spin is over 4,000, which I think is really good for a 5-iron of this size. My descent angle was a tad low, 36, but you know, it helps if you do actually strike it. Still 1.41 smash though, and not my best strike, so we like that a lot. That felt really nice. Much better strike on that one. That's carried 182 yards. That's just such like easy, effortless distance. That's easily an extra club over the irons I'm gaming. Obviously a bigger construction designed to give me that extra distance, but I still think it's interesting when it actually delivers that. 14 degrees of launch again, spin probably a tad low, 3,500. Descent angle getting up a little bit to 35. Max height there only at 20 yards, which is about 60 feet, so probably still a tad low. Maybe I do need the Max model. I think that's something that's always worth considering. There will be a point in your bag for everyone, unless you're a really, really high club head speed player, where a club starts dropping lower and flying lower than other clubs in the bag. And actually what we want is for every single iron in your bag, ideally, in an ideal world, to fly at the same height. So I think a lot of people think, oh, your pitching wedge should go higher than your 5-iron. It looks like that because of how quickly it goes up and down, but actually we want them all to hit the same peak height. So if you get to a point in your bag where one club just isn't getting that high, no matter how well you hit it, that's when we should be looking at moving into a different model. And that's why we see so many people now, even on tour, when we get to like 6, 5, 4, 3, comboing in different models to optimize that setup. Tell you what, it's delivered a super consistent ball flight. I mean, those last two balls are literally right next to each other. 186 yards carry with a 5-iron. That's like nearly as far as my 7 would, which is pretty mental. 15 degrees launch, pretty much 4,000 spin, 38 degrees land angle, which is my best yet, and up to 23 in terms of height, which is about nearly 70 feet. Pretty happy with those numbers, to be honest. Let's see what we can get with the Max. I'm excited to see if we keep the distance and gain the height. Okay, there's definitely a noticeable difference now in terms of thickness when I put this behind the golf ball. The sole is obviously a little bit wider too, but that's all about getting that CG placement, adding that extra height, as well as weakening the lofts. I am very much someone though who will use a club regardless of what it looks like, as long as it performs. So let's see how it gets on. I actually think that's flown quite similar, but I don't think I struck it anywhere near as nicely as I did the Dynapwr. Now it's interesting because that was not my best strike, definitely a little bit low off the face. Still carried 171 yards, so still easily within like what distance I would want with my 5-iron. But what's really good is how optimised the numbers are. So we got 15 degrees of launch on that, we got 4,735 spin, 39 degrees of descent angle. That's going to give you a really good stopping power. And 21 yards of height, which out of a thin shot, will definitely take that. I think the key with this model, it's about the flight and the height it's giving you. And that's what you really need to think about if that's what you need or not. And if you do, that's where this model's going to shine. Oh, flush. I can tell it's going higher because the wind's taking it a bit more. It suddenly got extremely windy, if you can't tell from my hair. Okay, so I really like this. 180 yards, so probably a little bit shorter than what we saw with the main Dynapwr model. I would kind of expect that because this club is giving me extra height and launch, which I don't necessarily need. But I think for people who don't launch it as high already, this is going to get them extra hang time. 15 degrees of launch, that's perfect. Skytrack's telling me green. 4,357 spin. Very, very, very close to Skytrack's optimal number. Obviously it doesn't know what kind of club I'm using here. 40 degrees descent angle, so I've picked up like 4 degrees. That's going to really help in terms of stopping the ball on the green. And then up to 23 in terms of height, which is we're nearly at 70 feet. I just think for so many golfers, that's so much more optimised than having the extra 4 or 5 yards from the Dynapwr. Because the control you're going to have, the stopping power, like irons are about precision, control and consistency, not about all out distance. And for me, having something like this which is more controllable is way more important than a few extra yards. Not quite as good a strike there for that last one, 174, but 16 launch angle, really good, 4,481 spin, 40 descent angle, 23 max height. Really this model is about that flight and it's really delivering that. I'm very impressed with the performance of this actually. I do think one thing to balance out is kind of width of sole. I'm used to playing a very small iron, so it does feel a little bit different when I get to this point, and that does take a little bit of getting used to in terms of the quality of strike. You could tell there I struck the Dynapwr on a little bit better, which is equated to the more distance. I think the more I use this, the more I would adjust to the width of club, get kind of my attack angle to match what would work for this iron compared to what works for the current iron I use. And then I would probably add a little bit more distance and have the distance more consistent. But consistently through the bag there, I've got more height and increased descent angle and more spin with the Max model. So if you're someone who needs that height, control, stopping power, this is the place to look. Okay, 9-iron time. I tend to think or see when I'm testing at this part in the bag, you don't see as bigger differences between two models. At the end of the day, I guess this isn't really an area where you need an excessive amount of help in terms of kind of height and launch, but let's see if that's the case or not. Again, going to start with the Dynapwr. Shape of the club head is definitely a little bit more rounded, kind of pear-shaped when we get to this part of the bag, which I really like. Now at this point in the bag, there's only 1.5 degree difference in terms of loft. So from 7-iron up, the Dynapwr is 2 degrees stronger than the Dynapwr Max. From 8-iron down, that moves to 1.5 degrees. So here we've got 37.5 in the Dynapwr and then 39 in the Dynapwr Max. Oh, I was definitely scared of that right pin then. That was a straight pull into the bunker. Do you know, for a pull though, the data was really optimised. 19 degrees launch, 47 descent angle, spin over 8,000, 134 carry. Probably around what I'd want with my 9-iron, to be honest. Ah, it's better. Really nice high ball flight. I feel like at this point in the bag, that's kind of like the perfect flight for me. Again, 134 yards, very consistent. I do feel like with wedge like 9-iron, kind of regardless of what club I'm hitting, they tend to go the similar distance. 20 launch, 7,846 spin, you're gonna get good control from that. 49 descent angle, which you could argue is a tad too high, but I think really if you want to stop a ball on the green, can it be too high? Not sure I really need to hit another one with that, to be honest, because those two shots were basically identical, and I don't think the data's going to change that much. Right, into the Max. Again, the same kind of story, a much more rounded at this point, but this definitely is a little longer, or looks longer, toe to heel. The flight on that is just ridiculous. You know, I rarely see differences in these kind of clubs, but that is definitely giving me more launch. So that went 131, which is a tad shorter, but 3 yards. I don't think you're going to pick a club on if it goes 3 yards longer or shorter. But the launch is up to 23, which for me is higher than optimal. The spin's 8,500, which again for me is higher than optimal. And the descent angle was 50 degrees, which again is higher than optimal. And the height was also 28 degrees. Now, I hit a high golf ball generally. I don't have problem launching the ball high or getting the right height on it, which is why my numbers are too high. But I hope this shows people who do want that extra height, hang time, stopping power. This is really giving you that. I know so many club golfers who I play with all the time who they can't stop these scoring clubs on the greens, especially at this time of year when it's firm. I play at All Woodley. The course here gets extremely dry and firm, and that's something I see from club golfers all the time. They're having to land the ball a long way short, which is a really hard thing to do, especially if you're on a hole like this where there's a false front, there's bunkers short, and you can't always run it in. Having a club that's going to add height and stopping power like this is invaluable to your scoring ability. I actually can't believe how much height and descent angle that's just added from 1.5 degree loft change. It's just so easy to hit too. It's dead at the flag. Nice little 6 foot for birdie. We'd like that. I'm not sure you'll be able to see how quickly that stopped on the green, but it's really impressive. I think you think when you get to this kind of club, it's not going to stop and grab. That did easily. Again, numbers also identical, which shows you that there still is that consistency story available with this kind of club. 131 yards carry again. 22 launch, 7,947 spin, 50 degrees descent angle, slightly lower fly at 26 yards, but we will take that. We will definitely take that. I am really impressed with how these irons have performed. I feel like they're just clubs that are overlooked, aren't they, Wilson irons? Yet time and time again, I test them and they perform really well. And they easily stack up head to head against other models that are more expensive and have been custom fit, which is a big testament to Wilson about the performance. And at the moment they're putting loads of investment into the R&D team. They're really pushing that Wilson golf section of overall Wilson brand again. They're actually the brand that's won the most majors in the iron category. So don't sleep on them next time you're picking some new irons.